start in a child's pose. So make your way there now, and it can be any shape that you'd like. Knees wide or knees close underneath the upper body. Arms can be out long in front of you, palms face down, or along the length of your sides, palms face up. So whether the chest is pressing down towards the mat in between the knees, or you sort of have a shelf for the upper body, start to breathe into your heart space. Just letting everything else around you fall away. Come into that one point of focus, which is the breath. Become aware of how you come into this present moment awareness this morning. Is it smooth? That smooth transition to the present moment? Or does it feel far away? Every day is different. So try not to judge. And that's why we get on our mats, is to practice this. So know that you're right where you need to be, and you're enough. Start to press out all of your air, like expelling all that stale air left in the lungs. Get to the bottom of the breath. Then take a deep breath in through the nose. Feel where your capacity is held today. And then exhale out of the mouth with a sigh. Maybe the hips relax a little bit more behind you towards the heels. Crown of the head pulls forward energetically. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Feel the shoulder blades expand away from one another. A little sip of air at the top. Biggest breath this morning, and exhale out of the mouth. Pull the ribs together towards midline. Good. Now continue to breathe in and out of the nose. And start to stretch the fingertips forward towards the front of your mat. So far forward that the arms lift up off of the mat. And try and twist the triceps down, biceps up, so that the elbows are face downward as much as possible. Breathe into the length of your sides. And then on your next inhale, start to walk the hands over towards the right, rocking the forehead towards the right as well. Breathe into the left side body, compression of the right side body. Really anchor down the left hip towards the left heel. One breath. And then start to walk the fingers back towards the middle and then over towards the left, rocking the forehead to the left. One breath here. Try to keep the right shoulder anchored down as well so that the shoulders are in one line, the hips are in one line. And then on your inhale, come back to center. Press into the hands and start to make your way into a tabletop position, stacking shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Create any movements here that you'd like, shaking the hips from side to side. We're going to go through a variation of cat-cows in a few seconds here. So move in any way that you need to for the next 2 breaths. And then bring the left knee in towards the right, about halfway. And then bring the right knee, lift the right knee up and behind the left leg. So we're nestling our knees together, trying to get that right knee on the outside of the left shin. And then adjust the hands. You might need to walk them over towards the left just to get a nice triangle base beneath your body. And then on your inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, lift the tail. Exhale, round the spine, tuck the tailbone, press up through the mid-back. Really lift up through the navel, expelling out all air. Inhale. Eyes of the elbows turn forward. Gaze comes up. And exhale, around the spine. Once more, inhale. Pull the chest through, widening through the collarbones. And exhaling to close it off. Now in this cat pose, start to walk the hands towards the knees. Walk, 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 walk. And then try and hover the hands using your core strength to pull you up, stacking one vertebrae on top of another until you're all the way up to standing with this cross-legged thing going on beneath us. And then reach the hands up towards the sky. Gaze comes up for a moment. And then bend at the elbows, grabbing for opposite elbows. Head can come on straight now. And then once you have the forearms or the elbows, start to twist the forearms, rotating through the upper body, just churning the pot here. Drawing a big circle or as big of a circle as you can on the ceiling with your forearms in one direction. Check in with the breath, make sure you're still breathing, and then swap directions, go the other way. Try and stay as stable as you can beneath you, not only pressing into the knees, but also the tops of the feet. And it might be quite hard to keep the shins parallel with one another. That's okay. Let's just take note of how wide the feet are. And then once you stop rotating, straighten through the arms, gaze up once more, bend through the elbows, and lift the chest up. And release. Keep the core tight now as you bring the hands out back in front of you. And then uncross the legs. And then move on to the other side. So if you need to bump in the right knee a little bit, just so that it's towards the center of your mat, and then cross the left knee over, beside the right knee. Adjust the hands, and then start to make our way through cat-cows.
Inhaling through this cow variation and exhaling cat. We're just going to go through 3 rounds, so see what space you can open into that you don't typically get to in our standard cat-cow tabletop variation. Getting a little bit of outer hip action here. Really wakes you up in the morning. And one more. And then once you're in that cat, that rounded pose, start to walk the fingertips in towards the knees. Really keep that roundedness with the spine. And then test your balance here. A little bit challenging to get the hands up off of the mat, but do your best. It's always great to have a wall beside you to help. Lift the arms up overhead. And then bend into the elbows. And like the same, just as we did on the other side, just churn the pot here. Notice the differences. If the right hip is really pulling forward on this side, or if you found that it was the same thing on the left side, but this side feels better. Check out what the mobility of range is of the spine when we're in sort of a balance challenge through the legs. And flip directions if you haven't already. It doesn't have to be super fast motions either. So if you need to slow it down, then do that. Listen to the body. Really try and feel through each segment of this exercise. And straighten through the elbows. Gaze up towards the sky. And then cactus the arms, lift up through the chest. Think about that string pulling up through the center of your chest. And then arms come by your sides. With control, chest comes down, leading with the heart. And then come all the way down onto hands. Adjust the knees back to a tabletop position. Go through 3 rounds of regular cat-cows. See how these feel. Maybe you find more space in the spine. It's nice to have that stability underneath your hands and knees now. Now that we've gotten a taste of instability or imbalance. And then on your next cat position, the rounded position, tuck through the toes, hover through the knees, and slowly press back into downward facing dog, lifting through the sits bones, straightening through the spine, and then eventually pressing the heels down towards the mat, keeping the legs nice and engaged. If you need to do any types of movements here, go ahead and do so. Explore the body. Pump out the legs. Shake the head. Then come back to stillness. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. Long breaths. Good. Now lift the right leg up and back
as if you're stamping the sole of the foot on the back wall. And then bend into the right knee, shifting the weight forward, shoulders over the wrists, knee comes to chest, sweep the foot through in between the hands, and then come up onto your fingertips, pop that left foot about halfway forward, and then press down through the sole of the foot, straightening through both feet. Pyramid pose. Now you might need to come up onto blocks or just come up about halfway to keep the spine elongated. And that's okay. Go to your depth here, pressing back through the right hip and pressing forward through the left hip so that the hips can be squared off with one another. And just take a couple of breaths here, really pressing down through the right big toe, straightening through the right leg as much as you can, and pressing back towards the outside edge of the left foot. And maybe you find a little bit more space for the chest to come down towards the right shin. One more full breath here. And then inhale, come up through the chest, bringing both hands to your hips. And then adjust the feet so that the right foot is a little bit towards the right, just heel toe the right foot a little bit towards the right edge of the mat. And then come up off of the left foot or the left heel so that you're on the left toes. And then start to bend down through both knees, double bent leg lunge. Try and keep the right knee stacked over the right ankle and the hips over the right or the left knee. Now try and hover here, but if you need to come down onto the left knee, that's okay. But if you can keep the left leg, the left knee hovered, a little bit of strength training here. Engage through the core, lift up through the crown of the head. Keep the hands on the hips to keep that squared, keep them square with the ribs and the shoulders. One more inhale. And then exhale, straighten through both legs. Turn both toes towards the left so that we're in a wide stance here. Toes angled out, not parallel, but out towards the sides. Same direction as the knees. Keep the hands on the hips and bend into the knees. Try and keep the spine straight here. Can you press the hips down in line with the knees or as much as you can? Keep pressing out through the outer thighs, lifting up through the inner thighs, and then straighten through both legs. And then twist towards the back of the mat. And then bend into both knees. Double bent leg lunge here. Either hovered with the right knee or right knee down, just for a low lunge. Feel for that right hip. Is it wanting to drop down? Can you lift it back up? Is it pulling back towards the center of your mat? Or can you pull the left hip back, coax that right hip forward? For one more full breath. And straighten through both legs. Now we're going to go through that pyramid on this side. So you might need to bump in the right foot so that it's completely flat on the ground. Coax the hips forward, or that right hip forward, squaring off through the hips. And then bring the chest down to your depth. Now, if you're down here, that's great. If you're up here, that's fine too. I kind of like to test my balance here by keeping my hands on my hips, pulling the navel up and in. Keep your chest nice and open by squeezing the shoulder blades, slightly tuck through the chin so that you can pull up, lengthening the back of the neck.
Are your kneecaps pulled up your thighs? Can you press down into the mat a little bit more with that left big toe? Tuck your tailbone even more towards that right heel. And then inhale, come all the way back up to center. And just like we did on the other side, come back to that stance of up onto the toes of the right foot, right heel lifted. Take an inhale here, and then exhale to bend down into both knees. Coming into a lunge position just for a moment. Inhale back to straight legs. Turn both toes towards the right. Toes out, knees out. Bend through the hips or the knees, sending the hips down. For one breath, come all the way back up. Twist towards the front of the room. Come up onto the left toes. Bend down into both knees. Hover that left knee, really challenge yourself here. Inhale back to straighten. Exhale, hips turn towards the side. Bend down into the knees. Inhale all the way back up. Exhale, come to the back of the mat. Bend into both knees. Inhale, pop back up. Exhale, turn to the center or the side of the mat. Bend into both knees. We're going to be here for a couple of breaths. So for an added challenge, arms reach up overhead. Palms face towards one another. Find your point of focus in front of you. Just fix your gaze right on the ground or on the wall in front of you. It's best if that thing that you're staring at is not moving. Challenge yourself here. Can you sit back down into the knees? Can you reach the shoulders up over the hips a little bit more? And straighten through the legs. Turn both toes, slightly pigeon toes. So toes in, heels out. Bring your arms out by your sides, palms face down, and then lead with the heart, hinging at the hips to come down into a wide forward fold. Align your fingertips with your toes, bending into the elbows. Pull the chest through. Notice if you're collapsing in on the arches, can you lift up through the inner arch by pressing down through the outer edge of the foot? And here, if your hands are on the ground, can you use that point of contact to bend into the elbows and pull the chest through a little bit more? Not forcing, just breathing your way into your deepest variation. Good. And then slowly start to make your way out. Try and keep a long spine as you come out, coming out the exact same way. So if you can stretch your hands out towards the sides of you, and then use your legs and your core strength to pull you all the way back up in one swoop. Awesome. If you need to put your hands on your hips for a little bit of support, that's great too. Turn that right foot in towards the front of the mat, and then step the left foot up towards the front of the mat as well. Tadasana, mountain pose. Measure about hips width distance with the feet so that the feet are under the hips. And take a breath here. And grounding down to the space beneath you. And feeling that ground support you. Try not to collapse into the knees. Keep the legs engaged. Notice how the upper body feels. Are you practicing good posture here? Maybe you can lift through the heart, lift through the chin a little bit. And then inhale your arms up overhead. And then sit down into your seat. Find chair pose. Shift weight into the heels. Sit down as low as you can. Keep the chest lifted. Slightly arching the back, pulling out through the chest, but keep your core engaged, your front side core engaged so that you're not relying on your back muscles to hold you up. Take an inhale here, and then keep your left hand where it is. Sweep the right arm down and around to open up towards the right side of the room. Notice if that right knee pulls back. If it did, then push the right knee back over the right heel as much as you can, because that will change your hip position as well. Inhale, sweep the hand all the way back up to center. Arms up above you, and then exhale, left arm sweeps down, back behind you, and maybe gaze chases the left thumb. Notice if your hips had moved at all. Can you keep them stable? Inhale, come back to center. Once more on both sides, exhaling to sweep the right arm down and around, open up the chest towards the right. Keep that twistedness with the low back. Inhale, up. Exhale, towards the left. Inhale, back to center. And then exhale, forward fold, straighten through the legs, hinge at the hips. Take a couple of breaths here. It's okay if you're bent in the knees. Keep pulling up through the sits bones. And allow the crown of the head to really pull down towards the ground. Feel heavy in the head, gazing in between the shins. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. And then inhale, chair pose. Sit the hips down and then reach the arms up. Start to shift weight into the left foot. Start to hover the right foot up off of the mat. And then bring the right knee as close to the chest as you can as you cross the right knee up and over the left. Going for crossed legs. And then identify right hand from left hand. Sweep your right arm underneath the left so that the left elbow is nestled inside the right elbow. Press the hands together as much as you can. Sit down through the hips. Align the elbows so that they're the same height as the shoulders. Try to create 90 degrees with the elbows. We're here for one more breath. And release through the arms, release through the legs. Stand up straight, sweep the arms up overhead. Push the hips forward. Gaze comes up, chase the hands behind you. And exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Try to get that measurement of halfway or hips width distance with the feet. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Just reset. And then bend into the knees. Arms sweep up overhead. Chair pose. Find a good chair here. The lower you sit, the easier this crossover will be. So start to shift weight into the right foot. Hover the left foot up off of the mat. And then start to bend into the left knee, bringing the left knee up into the chest as high as you can, and then cross it over the right thigh. Sit down, sit down, sit down. Left arm sweeps underneath the right arm. Pull the hands away from the face as much as you can. Feel the spread in the shoulder blades. Sit down, keep the core engaged. Tailbone tucks under. Couple of breaths here. Find your point of focus in front of you. Don't move your gaze from that space. Come back to the breath. Challenge yourself for one more. Inhale and exhale. Unravel through the arms, unravel through the legs, straighten through the legs, reach the arms up overhead, press the hips forward, sweet relief, and exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Flatten through the back. Exhale, fold. Plant the hands down and step your feet back so that you're in an upper push-up plank position. We're going to go through some push-ups here, so if you need to use your knees, then use them. But if you don't, that's okay too. Inhale to push the mat away. Exhale, lower down halfway. Gaze comes forward. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, lower down halfway. Elbows in towards the ribs, all the way up. Engage through the core, engage through the quads. Exhale, lower down halfway. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, lower down halfway. All the way up. One more. Halfway down. All the way down. Halfway up. All the way up. And downward facing dog. Good. Deep breath here, in through the nose. Exhale through the nose. Remember, if you need child's pose, if you need a break, go ahead and take it. Inhale the right leg up overhead, or up behind you, overhead. I mean, you'd be really flexible to do that. And then sweep that right foot through in between the hands. And then pop into crescent warrior with the left heel lifted behind you. Arms sweep up overhead. Create a strong base underneath the feet. Can you sit down even deeper in the hips so that the hips are in line with the right knee? Open up through the left front side of the hip. Inhale to sweep the hands forward. Extended crescent warrior. Notice that the shoulders are popped up towards the ears. Can you pull them back, creating a long neck? Start to shift weight into the right foot. Maybe hovering the left foot a little bit. And then sweeping the right or the left foot up towards the right so that we're passing through a chair pose. Reset the gaze. And then send weight back into the right foot, cross the left foot or the left knee up and around, coming into eagle legs. And then on this side, left arm comes underneath the right. Eagle arms. Take a deep inhale here. Keep the arms wrapped. Unravel through the legs. Try not to set the left foot down. Send the left heel behind you. Chest dips down a little bit until the left toes hit the ground behind you. Finding crescent warrior. Straighten through the upper body. Inhale. Open up through the chest, lifting through the elbows, pressing the fingers behind you, chasing the fingers with your gaze. And then exhale to release the arms, reach them overhead as well, straightening through the elbows, pressing the hips forward equally, and then exhale. Hands come down to the mat, step the right foot back, downward facing dog. Inhale the left leg up and back. Bring the left foot in between the hands. Really engaging your core to get it through And setting it down quietly. Reach the arms up overhead. Set up your nice steady foundation. Really lengthen through the right leg behind you, pressing the heel back. Deep inhale to start. And then on your exhale, sweep the arms forward. Really engage through the core. Extension of the upper body. One long line of energy from the fingertips all the way down through that left heel or the right heel. And then really start to press weight into the left foot. Bending into the knee, supporting your weight. Hover the right toes. And then bring the right knee up over the left knee. Sit down, sit down, sit down. And then right arm comes underneath the left. Eagle wrapped arms, eagle wrapped legs. Hold here for one breath. Keep the arms, unravel the legs, send the chest down just to counterbalance while you send the right toes back in space, finding crescent with the legs. Eagle wrapped arms, press the elbows up towards the sky, opening up through the upper body. And then release through the arms. Send your straight arms up overhead, gaze comes up for one more breath. And then on your exhale, plant your hands down. Step that left foot back to downward facing dog. Good. Come down onto the knees and take a child's pose. Let all of that work go. Trace the breath into the lungs, into the low belly. Feel it expand in all directions. Good. Bring your hands towards your body. It's passing through a hero's pose or Virasana. Sit the hips to one side of the heels. Sweep the legs out long in front of you. Setting up for a seated forward fold. You can have a slight bend in the knees. Reach the arms up overhead. Deep inhale. And then exhale, fold forward. Grabbing for the outside edges of your feet, maybe the shins or the ground beneath you. And make your way back up. Keep the left leg how it is. Bend into the right knee and place the right heel as close to the right hip as you can. Just right next to the left thigh. Reach the right arm up overhead and then sweep it forward like you're about to shake somebody's hand. Get the right shoulder on the inside of the right knee, and then bend the elbow, turn the thumb face down, bend into the elbow, and wrap the arm around the shin as much as you can until you find the right hip with the right hand. And then with the left hand, sweep that around your back. trying to find a grasp with the hands, or just a grasp of your clothes, something to hold on to as you pull the chest down and the forehead down towards the left knee. Now keep the left foot engaged, toes pulling back towards your face. Really round through the spine. It's okay if the forehead doesn't come down to the left knee, it's just a direction of movement. And if the right hip is coming up off of the mat, start to anchor that down towards the mat. And inhale to come all the way up. Right leg extends forward. Left knee bends. And set up here. Try and get both sits bones to ground into the mat. Right hand can come out to the side for a little bit of stability here. Reach the left arm forward. Left shoulder on the inside of the left knee. Turn the thumb down, pinkies up, bend into the elbow, wrapping the arm around the leg. And then right arm comes behind the back. Try and find a grasp with the hands. If that doesn't work, grabbing onto the clothes, your shirt, the top of your pants, that works too. Turn the nose face down. Tuck the chin, try and really get the forehead as close to the knee as possible. Couple of breaths here. Good. Come all the way back up to center. Straighten through both legs. Bop the knees up and down. And then start to shift weight into the hips. Pass through a boat pose. Inhale to push the knees up and towards the chest. Lift up through the center of the chest. And then exhale, lower, lengthen, and hover. Pump through the legs for 5, 4. Press the low back down. 3, 2, and 1. Release. Bring the knees in towards the chest. And rock from side to side. Good. And then bring the left leg to a straight position. The left heel pressing down into the mat. Interlace your fingers underneath the right knee and press the right knee up towards the right shoulder. Keep pressing the right hip or right sits bone forward towards the front of your space. And you might find that helps you bend even deeper into the right hip crease. Deep inhale to start. And exhale to release the breath. Keep in this position. And on your next breath, sweep the right knee across the body towards the left side of your space. And as you do so, the right hip lifts up off of the mat while the left hip is still beneath you. The spine here in this position is kind of wonky, so tuck that left hip underneath the right hip so that the spine can stay in a straight position. And then the right knee falls a little bit further towards the left. But that's not so much what we want to focus on. Try and focus on keeping the right shoulder grounded as much as you can. And gaze over towards the right, whether your arm is straight or in a cactus position. Really try and keep both shoulders planted on the mat. And breathe into the twist that's going on here. Keep the breath alive, but create that calmness of breath. Good. As you're ready, start to turn the gaze back to center. The right knee comes up, again towards the chest. You readjust the left hip. Interlace your fingers beneath the right knee, pressing it up towards the right armpit. Once more. And then bring that left knee up into the chest and switch the grip. If the whatever thumb was on top before, put the other thumb on top. Interlacing the fingers underneath the left knee, extend through the right leg. Bring the left knee up towards the left shoulder, bypassing the rib cage. So slightly pulling it out towards the left so that it's not up, getting caught on the rib cage. Keep both feet flexed. And tuck the chin to pull out through the crown of the head. Really use your biceps to pull that left knee up and out towards the left. Take a full inhale. Feel the belly press into the top of the left thigh. And exhale softly. Start to bring the left knee across the body towards the right. And as you're doing so, just like we did with the other side, tuck the right hip underneath the left. The right shoulder grounded on the mat. And gaze towards the right side or the left side of your space.
And think of this pose as a means to bring out the body, ridding yourself of all things that you don't need, physically in the body and energetically. I mean, here we're quite literally wringing out our organs, twisting and manipulating them in different fashions that we wouldn't be if we skipped this pose. And so twisting is quite good for digestion, helping things move along. Really use your breath. Breathing in as deeply as you can. And as you exhale, see if the twist can go a little bit deeper. Again, not forcing anything, but if you breathe, if you find that you're breathing more space, then move into that newfound area of the body. And one more breath. Start to move the left knee back towards the left side, readjusting the right hip so that it's towards the right, comfortable underneath the body. Interlace the fingers once more underneath the left knee and bring it up towards the left armpit. Now send the left foot down on the mat so that the left knee is face up towards the sky. And then bring the right knee to meet the left. We're going to pass through a bridge pose. So measure out your feet about hips width distance apart. And as you extend through the arms, make sure that you can just brush the backs of the heels with the fingertips. Press the low back down into the mat, tucking through the tailbone to start, and then send the hips up towards the ceiling. You can tuck the outsides of your arms underneath the body, grabbing for interlaced hands underneath the hips. Press the hips up towards the sky, engaging through the glutes and the hamstrings by pressing the knees forward as well. Keep the chin out of the chest. Breathe into the belly. One more breath. And release. Good. If you'd like a shoulder stand, bring the knees up towards the chest and use the abs, maybe a little bit of momentum to get the hips lifted enough so that you can grab for the low back with the hands. Walk the elbows a bit closer to one another. And again, keep the chin away from the chest. There should be space between the back of the neck and the ground. And gaze up the body towards the toes. Keep the core engaged, kneecaps pulling up the thighs. We'll be here for a few more moments. Good. You can start to hinge through the hips to send the feet back behind you for a plow pose and then send the hips down, or come out exactly the way that you came in, keeping the hands to support the back the entire way. Make your way into final Shavasana, extending the legs, taking up as much space as you'd like. Arms reach out beside you, palms face up, tuck the chin. Start to remind the body, one segment at a time, to turn off. Close to the eyes. Take one final controlled breath before letting that go as well. Let your body come into complete relaxation. If there's any place on the body that you can soften, move there now. Start to deepen the breath. Fill yourself up with new life. And start to wiggle through the hands, the fingers and the toes. And then bring the feet together. Press the toes forward. Bring the hands together overhead, crossing through the thumbs. Stretch along the length of your body. Really getting into the sides of the body. And then bring the knees in towards the chest. Give yourself a big hug, wrapping the arms around the knees. Rock from side to side once more. And then rock to one side of your mat, passing through a fetal pose. Let's take a breath here. And use the hands to press all the way up to the seated pose. Bring the hands to heart center. Soften your gaze or close the eyes. Thank yourself for honoring your practice, making it to your mat today. Sometimes that's the hardest part. Bring the thumbs to your third eye center. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, we say namaste.